Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today I'm joined by Steelers Now beat reporter Alan Saunders. Alan, thank you so much for joining us here. I think we're the only two Steelers guys here at Radio Row here in New Orleans, but I saw you were here. I emailed you yesterday, and you were gracious enough to join us today, so thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to find a familiar Steelers face here amid the Chiefs and Eagles bonanza that's happening here for Super Bowl 59.
It's absolutely crazy, man. Well, let's talk a little bit of Steelers here among the Super Bowl bonanza here in NOLA. I want to start with the state of the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Obviously, they're keeping head coach Mike Tomlin for yet another season. There's obviously a lot of fan backlash to that decision. Obviously, this team hasn't won a playoff game in a very, very long time, and there's a lot of frustration starting to build up. But I think with them choosing to bring back Mike Tomlin and really shutting down calls for a potential trade, they still believe that this team can potentially make a run for a Super Bowl relatively soon under Mike Tomlin. So I wanted to ask your perspective on Mike Tomlin, how you think that he is as a head coach, and if you think that he's the right guy to lead this team back to the promised land.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a great head coach. He's a Hall of Famer in my eyes, and a pretty easy one. Obviously, the results have not been what they're looking for, and they made a lot of kind of win-now moves this past year. They signed Russell Wilson, they signed Patrick Queen, they traded for Justin Fields. They did a lot of things that looked like a team, and Art Rooney actually used the word like impatient, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to get there, and they didn't get there. And not only did they not get there, parts of the team, especially the defense, I think underperformed. Whereas if you look at the Steelers' playoff exit or end of regular season over the last few years, okay, so they had a rookie Kenny Pickett, they had the aging Ben Roethlisberger, the Duck Hodges year, and you look at the finish and you go, hey, those weren't very good teams.
Yeah.
It's not embarrassing that they finished where they finished, but I think this team was put together with the intention of being more than that.
Agreed.
And I think anytime you get to not as far as you thought you were going to, I think that puts a rightful bullseye on the head coach. But I also think this is the first time in a long time you can sort of definitively say that about Mike Tomlin. So I understand them saying, okay, another year. But like I wrote today about the defense, the whole idea of what they're doing right now is they're trying to sort of incrementally improve the offense while the defense is great.
Yeah.
And they fell short of great this year.
They did.
And
especially down the stretch.
Cam's 35. TJ's going to be – TJ's 30. I think
Yeah.
Nick is 28. If that unit doesn't get back to great, then there's a real problem.
Yeah.
And I think really this offseason is about a lot of all the personnel focus is going to be on the offense, and rightfully so. Their offense wasn't very good last year. But I think the real thing when you're talking about Mike Tomlin and his future is if the defense doesn't get fixed this year, I don't see how he can continue. That's his thing. That's his unit, and they have great personnel, and they just weren't good enough this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this team needs some things that they need to fix in this offseason. Obviously the offensive line is going to be a big X factor in my opinion. You got Broderick Jones probably moving over to left tackle where this team originally drafted him to play. This would be his first year at left tackle after spending 2 years at right. Fautano's coming back from hopefully non-chronic knee issues that he had this past year. And then you have McCormick, who was a left guard in college that moved over to the right side, and he struggled down the stretch a little bit. But hopefully after another offseason, he can really turn it around. I've been saying on this show that I think the run game is the key to success. Like you said, the defense needs to turn it around, but I think we both agree they have the horses there to be able to still be great. They still have some really high-end talent in there. What, in your opinion, is the main thing that this team needs to get right this offseason in order for them to go from a team that can make the playoffs to a team that can win playoff games?
Yeah, they've got to get the running game going. They want to be a running team. They were running. They ran fourth most rushing attempts in the league.
Yeah.
But you can't be that heavily of a running team and be so bad at it. They were 25th or something in yards per carry and success rate.
28th in success rate, something like that.
It's just that can't continue to happen. And so, look, I think it's a reasonable thing to look at the personnel and say, we got Russell Wilson, we're protecting him with Dan Moore, and he's throwing to Van Jefferson. Why would we be a passing team? Okay, I get it. I get it. That's not a passing recipe either. But like we talked about the defense, they used a lot of good draft picks on offensive linemen that were well-regarded choices when they made them. And yeah, they're young guys. Najee Harris is a good running back.
Good running back.
Maybe wasn't a great decision to draft him when they did, but
Sure.
he's going to get paid a lot of money this offseason.
Yes.
Jaylen Warren's a good running back. They had the guys to have a good running game, and they didn't. And similarly to the defense, on offense, that's the thing. They need those offensive linemen to take a step forward, but I think they've got to come up with some schematic answers too. Like, it just didn't feel like it was a smooth operation for them at any point this year.
Yeah, I agree. And, when it comes to the personnel there in the running back room, do you think a change needs to be made at number one running back, or are you supportive of this team bringing back Najee Harris as this team's lead back?
I mean, I don't think they're bringing him back. I mean, they declined his option. I think it was like $7 million. They would have
pretty surprising. I think most of us expected that they would pick that up.
Yeah, if you didn't want him for $7, I don't know how you're going to decide now. You're going to want him for more, and it's definitely going to be more. So I think he's almost certainly gone. I think Jaylen Warren is a better fit for Arthur Smith's scheme anyway.
I agree.
The question is, it was banged up a lot this year, and can you count on him being healthy as the number one back with that? He's never had that workload, not in the NFL anyway. How would he respond to that? I think they got to come up with somebody else that can be a 1B at least for him, if not a starter. But it's a really deep running back class in the draft.
Yeah, and speaking of the draft, is there any specific running back prospect that has your attention and has your eye as somebody you think would be a great fit alongside Jaylen Warren in this Steelers scheme?
Yeah, the guy that really caught my attention at the Senior Bowl was Devin Neal from Kansas.
Yeah.
He's just like
he's smooth.
He's like a 125% scale model of Jaylen Warren. He's like all the same things in a slightly bigger package. And if you're losing Najee Harris, I think a slightly bigger package is something they should be looking for. Like Bashul Tutin from Virginia Tech was very good, and Harvey from UCF was very good.
I'm a big fan of Harvey.
But they're smaller guys.
Yeah.
And I think if you're like, okay, you already have Jaylen Warren, not the biggest running back, tough as nails.
Yes, he is.
But not the biggest running back. I would think you would want to be like one size larger, please. So I like Devin Neal a lot. I thought he's a really good fit. But there are, Caleb Johnson, Amarian Hampton. There's a lot of running backs in this class.
Absolutely. I can't let you go here without talking about the quarterback situation. Obviously, we know, as people that cover this team, that this is an extremely polarizing topic. If you bring up anything positive or negative about Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, you're either going to be called, a Fields stan or a Russie Ryder, whatever the case may be. Do you think that they end up bringing one of these two quarterbacks back? That's what Art Rooney II said in a press conference a couple of weeks ago. I kind of feel like that's the plan, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's the plan, and I think the preference would be Justin Fields, but they can't say that because then they got to negotiate a contract, and also, if I'm Justin, I think I would want to see if there's another team out there. I would want to know what my other options are.
Yeah.
I would want to say, does somebody else out there want to give me a starting job or a good chance to compete for a starting job? But if I'm the Steelers, I want to get this taken care of tomorrow. And so, where does that give and take where can the Steelers get a deal done right now, or is this going to be something that's going to drag on until March? I think that's still really up in the air.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to bring back Justin Fields. I think they're going to invest in the potential upside. Something I've mentioned on this show that I think the Steelers should implement is the VR technology that the Commanders and the Vikings did. Jaden Daniels just had arguably the greatest rookie season we've seen since Big Ben. And then Sam Darnold had a career year in Minnesota. Even Marcus Mariota, when he was in there, played the best football of his career. I think a guy like Justin Fields, who has some mental processing issues, needs to see the field a little bit better. I think the VR technology and those extra reps could really, really help him out. But I'm just not sure if a team like the Steelers are going to invest in that kind of new technology this fast.
Steelers have been pretty willing to try out new things. They had Kenny Pickett a couple of years ago have a helmet cam so that he could go back and watch the film from his own perspective instead of the
All-22
coaches tape. I remember they had robot tackling dummies where they'd move around on their own and make the drills more difficult. I think they're willing to try stuff like that. I think it really just comes down to the person. I think everybody learns differently. I don't think it's a one size fits all thing. Talk to Justin Fields, and if he says I want it, then yeah, do it. If he says I don't think that's going to help me or I'm hesitant,
sure.
It doesn't matter if the team is all in on the technology if the player isn't. And you can't really force them to be either. You just kind of have to – people learn how they learn. But I think it's something that given the success that those teams have, I think you're going to see some college programs. Well, I think Jaden first did it at LSU before he did it at Washington. So I think you'll see that become a trend anyway, and then we'll see if it sticks. I don't know. Maybe it just really helped Jaden Daniels, and it won't do much for everybody else. I don't know. We'll see.
All right, final question here. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz around Cooper Kupp. The Rams are shopping him right now. Personally, I think there's other receivers out there that I'd probably rather have. Cooper's going to be 32 next year. He's been injury prone, all these different things. I want to get your thoughts on a potential trade for Cooper Kupp, what the price tag could look like, and whether you think he's a fit.
Yeah, I don't love the fit.
Me neither.
I just feel like the one thing they have is guys that are best out of the slot in Cal Boston and Roman Wilson.
Right.
Like you should feel good about that area going forward. And I think at this point in his career, he's played outside a good bit, but I think at this point in his career, probably looking like more of a slot guy going forward. He is bigger than those guys. He's 6'2". Like they're little. So like if you're looking at Arthur Smith wanting his wide receivers to block, I think he brings some of that to the table. Certainly like a leader type if you're, concerned about George Pickens and you think that, that could help him. I can see it, but I agree with you. I think there are better fits out there, both in the free agent market and also in the trade / maybe they're going to cut them, like guys like Devontae Adams and Christian Kirk who are under contract, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be back with their current teams.
Yeah.
There's more guys out that are going to be available than the ones that look like on free agency. As far as a return, I don't think the Rams should be expecting a lot for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, no. They might have to cut him.
Yeah, like I think they could probably get like a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, that's what I had yesterday.
And here's the thing. I wouldn't want that to be the Steelers' only move at wide receiver, but if they did that in addition to something else, like I don't think that's bad value for the player you'd be getting either. Like, what are you expecting out of a 5th-round pick? Not that deep of a draft class at wide receiver either when it comes to like day 3 guys. So, I mean, it's an option. I wouldn't be like jumping for joy about it.
Yeah. I think that T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, if he's made available, would be a slam dunk home run in my opinion. And then obviously got some good guys at the top of the draft class. But, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with George Pickens, whether they give him that extension. He's got that 1 year left on his rookie deal here. And, they might end up trading him. There's certainly some rumors going around about that. But it's going to be an interesting offseason. Alan Saunders, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys can follow him at @Saunders_PGH. They do some great stuff over there at Steelers Now. So, Alan, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.